Hello and welcome to episode number 7 of the Alpha Movement podcast. My name is Tom Foxley and today's episode is interesting, even more interesting than most. Basically, with today's guest, Sam Chapman, I had a coaching call prior to starting the recording. And this was without me knowing it was going to happen, so I wasn't really prepared to be coached. And then all of a sudden, I was reassessing my life. And this has had a huge impact on me already. So I've recorded a couple of snippets of the actual conversation I had with Sam prior, just to kind of give you an idea of the headspace I was in. And it, as I'm sure you can see, is pretty interesting.
I would give you money away. Yeah.
Fuck, why'd you do this? Like the first time that you blew my mind as well, and now you've kind of done it again.
You're going to have to create some pain and some huge vision to attach to that to be able to move you forward. No, that's bullshit.
So as you can hear, it was a mega interesting conversation with Sam. Aside from me losing my mind and wanting to completely rebuild my life, we talk about things like meditation and why it doesn't necessarily work for everyone. We even get into a bit of quantum physics, which is the first of the show. And there's just so much value in here that I really hope you make the most of it. And if this is one of those episodes where it's worth getting a notepad, because everything Sam seems to say is so important and there's a lot of meaning in every single sentence. Oh, and I apologise for introducing the show twice, and here it is.
Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the Alpha Movement podcast. I'll be completely honest with you, I've just been having a coaching session with today's guest, Sam Chapman, and she's kind of the second time that I've spoken to her in depth, and both times she's made me completely want to readjust my life. So without further ado, here is Sam Chapman. Can you tell us a bit about what you've just done, please, Sam?
Yeah, hi Tom. Thank you so much for having me. Well, a bit about me is that I've been in the industry coaching for over 10 years now, and I've worked in the city with CEOs and bankers, and I've worked with professional athletes and professional footballers and Olympic athletes, and basically I love what I do. And when we just spoke, you said you were not finding enough pain to get you motivated with your business because you've got a month before you need to really make it work. And so I just found you some pain, which has blown your mind a little bit, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, completely blown my mind, and there's enough pain there to last a lifetime now.
Yeah, so we were talking about how there's lots of things that drive people, and when you get into a good space, sometimes you can't get that motivation to drive yourself. If you're someone who was not in a good space emotionally in your business, say for instance, and you were driving yourself for significance or because you wanted to feel love for yourself, when you actually start to love yourself a bit better, you can't always get that drive to move yourself forward, because you're like, yeah, I'm all right. So what we do is we can find drivers and create the drivers and create the vision to be able to push you forward. And that's what we just did with you, Tom, wasn't it?
Yeah, and my particular driver seemed to be pain. I did ask you in the initial part of our coaching call bit about whether that was always a good thing to use as fuel. Can you just elaborate on that bit?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you are who you are. So when I believe in my system so much that I have always had coaches and always will, because I've always got a next level that I want to hit. And, I've discussed this on length about turning people from someone who was driven by pain to someone who was driven with more vision. But it's a lot easier to drive people through pain. That's what the media do, right? And yes, I want to get my clients to the point where they are driven by more vision, because that feels better and they're not in their ego. But if that's who you are, it depends how quickly you need results to whether you're going to use it. So, at the end of the day, we know that you need to do more to help more men, and you need to do that within a month. So you needed a quick driver, so we utilised who you really were.
Yeah. So it's a starting point.
Yeah, it's a starting point, and you can go. So obviously your vision was who you were before this point, and who you never want to be able to look at a man and think, oh, I've let that man down and I could have helped him. So we talked about you putting a picture of you when you were skinnier because that wasn't a great time for you, and just to put on the bottom of it every time you're on a call with a man, I never want to let another man feel the way I did. And that is pain and that is vision at the same time, because you're talking about the pain of where you were and then the contribution of giving another man that ability to feel the way you do now. So that was, that's a good driver as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. I feel very, very driven now. Something you mentioned there is coming from a place of ego. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of elaborate on that, and like, if you don't mind, go into different voices that we can listen to?
Yeah, so there's within us, there's different parts of our self, and our brain is made up of lots of different voices. And when I was little, I just thought I was crazy because having these different voices, I thought you were only supposed to have one voice, and it meant I was mad. And then I read, the Chimp Paradox, and realised that actually, oh wow, we're meant to have these different parts of ourselves, and it can be quite complex, but the basics of it, if we put it into like baby steps, are you got to think that the ego is a part of you that wants to protect you, and it wants to keep you well, and it wants to keep you safe. But so it also does things like looks at where you are in society and says, well, hey, Joe next door's got a brand new Range Rover, or he's got a swimming pool, and I need to be there. So it does serve you. People say it doesn't serve you, but it actually serves you really well to keep you safe, and it does its job. And if you move to another level, your ego feels that it's not going to have a job, so it doesn't want to go there. So its job is to keep you in a comfort zone, to keep you safe. And so what we've got to do is we've got to find techniques to be able to get past that, because it's a very strong voice. You've also got things like you're in a child, and if you can get all these voices to align, then you can get yourself to move forward. But sometimes, with the Chimp Paradox, I talk about it being a chimp, but imagine you've got a child inside of you, because a lot of us, we're still going from like this 6-year-old child. And if my child doesn't want to do something, so I'll give you an example. If I want to run and I feel like I can't be bothered to get out of bed, that's like, oh, my ego saying, oh, I can't be bothered. And the child might say, well, oh, I don't want to. But the adult's going, there's another part of you saying, the adult, is saying, well, it'll be really good for you. And that's the authoritative voice, and saying it'll be really good for you to run. And we know we've got to keep fit, and we know it's important for our body. And then the child can be like, well, I don't want to. And like a normal child, your child in your head can have an absolute hissy fit. And, I've seen people like the athletes I've worked with, they can get injuries when they don't align these voices. And so they're pushing themselves, and they're adults berating the child and saying, get on with it. But actually, if I was to motivate my child and say, you know what, if I do this and this and this, I'll go too. And there could be something that your inner child loves, like, I'll run to the lake. You love the lake. Why don't we throw stones in the lake? And the kid's like, yeah, that's awesome. So it's the same within business. If I want to do business, I want to do well, I have to have fun, because that's what my inner child likes. And there's lots of different parts of the voices, but basically it can either hold you back or it can help you go. But the ultimate voice that you really want to listen to is something called your higher self. And your higher self is your connection to what I call your lighthouse. So if I was out at sea and I need to get back to land, I'm going to look for a lighthouse. And within us, we have a lighthouse, but our ego doesn't want us to hear that, because it wants us to keep in touch with everything that's going on in society. And, a man needs to make money to be good, and a woman needs to look good to be loved. And, because the man is building up all this money, he's getting respect, and he's doing well in society. So we've all got these rules on society and what we think we should be like. Whereas really, your purpose is driven from your higher self. So that's your connection, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is. There's that part of you, that soul in you, that I'm not a table, I'm a vibration, but I'm not a table, I do have a soul. And so that part of me wants the best for me. And if you can get yourself into a space where you are happy, you are having fun, or you can connect with yourself and let go of the stress through meditating or going for a walk, you'll have drop-in thoughts. And those drop-in thoughts are the thoughts that really will help you make that business decision and get more money, because you're serving from a purpose. You're not going, I want to make money because I want to have the next big car. You're going, I want to help people, therefore the consequence is that I make money. And when you serve from that place, people will be attracted to you because you are serving from the right place. People know you want to help them, they'll naturally want to come to you. But if you are driven simply by money and you're not connected with your purpose and your higher self, then actually you will repel it.
Of course. You mentioned in there meditation, and like when we've previously spoken, you've said that it doesn't work for everyone. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what are like alternatives to meditation or other ways to listen more to your higher self?
I mean, I love meditation, so this is the first thing I want to say. I do love it and I do use it, but I've been through stages in my life where I've got a really fast brain. I work things out super quick, but what that means is I'm fantastic at my job, but in my own brain, it's not always the funnest place to be. And that's why I do what I do, because I love helping people and showing them the tools I've created to make that better. So if I was in one of those whizzy spaces, like I had lost a bit of balance, and I'm always honest that I'm human, I just know the tools how to get back quicker, I would not be able to meditate the way I would if I was in my state of my higher self a lot. So what I would do is, like I said, I'd go for a walk or paint or write or I'd dance, because I love listening to music, and everyone's got their thing. So someone who's really into music and being creative would love that. Someone who loves building or doing a engine, like repairing cars, that's their form of meditation. Someone who loves vegetables will go to the garden and they'll do their vegetables. And it's when it gets you in that state where you're not thinking about anything else bar the thing you're focusing on. And that literally is what you can do with meditation. You can look at a candle and you can stare at the candle. It takes your focus away. But the problem is that people these days, because meditation has become fashionable, they think, oh, well, I've got to sit here for like 10-15 minutes. And if those thoughts come into my head, I'm doing it wrong. It's not about not having the thoughts. It's about shifting them away or just realizing that they're there. But really, why are you trying to meditate? If you're trying to meditate and it's stressing you out, well, stop doing it. Simple as that. Because there is another way you can do it. And when you get more relaxed, then try meditation again. But don't hammer yourself thinking, I can't meditate. Think, what is my purpose? What am I serving? How is this going to serve me? It's meant to relax me. Well, go do something that you enjoy. And if you don't know what you enjoy, because I hear that sometimes, I don't know what chills me out, go and try some stuff. Go for a walk. Try go to the beach and work it out, and just see it as a fun experiment. And like, life's fun, so make it a game.
Yeah. You put out a video previously, I think it was called something like, if you think spirituality is airy fairy, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on that as well? Because like, obviously people have the preconception that meditation is very spiritual. So yeah, that might be interesting for people to hear.
Yeah, so the people who originally created meditation were not in a bad space. They were a very, like the Aztecs when it was designed, and we can see it in the history. Like, we would look at the Romans, and we were able to look at our past generations. The people who created, the original people who created meditation were in a really good space. They were very wealthy, the Aztecs, and they used meditation to actually be able to get themselves in a good space where they could hear. They were already very abundant. They were already very calm. It wasn't for calm. It was directing their mind to be able to get something else out of it. So like, would say now business, they weren't doing business for it, but they were wanting to get to a new space. And that's what meditation is actually for. But people use it now for relaxation. It doesn't have to be like that. The greatest people that I've worked with, the greatest teachers on this planet, every single one of them I know that I've had the honor to work with, they all use meditation, but they use their form of meditation. So when I say that airy fairy, what I'm saying is, like, people think that, if you're not religious, then God's a load of rubbish, or Allah, or Buddha, or whatever. I've studied over the last 10 years a lot of religions and also the science, because I was the person who had something different. I knew that I wasn't normal, and I didn't know why. I had all this information in my head. How can I know these things about people, and other people don't seem to get it? They're happy just being the way they are, and I've got this thirst for all this knowledge and stuff. And what I realized was, I went and looked at quantum physics and the science, and I realized it's all the same thing. And so it's just the language that puts people off. Like, some people are not into religion, and I had a block I couldn't go into a church. And I was like, oh no, I'm spiritual, but I am not religious. And now what I've learned over the last at least 5 years is I can look at any religion and take the learning and take something amazing from it. But I used to struggle, and I would find it a challenge. Anything spiritual, I was like so scientific. I was like, show me the evidence, show me the evidence, show me the evidence. And that's what built me to look at all this stuff and realize it's the same stuff, and it's just the language. And the theologian says exactly the same. Quantum physicists, they always was, always will be, and that is what spirituality is. Now, if I take a table and if I'm talking science and a molecular structure, a table is literally made up of atoms, and it's literally a vibration. So it's a frequency, and that is all a table is. But I'm made up of that same stuff. So what's the difference between me and a table?
Yeah. Yeah, what is the difference then? What is the difference?
Exactly. So I have consciousness, which is free will. I have the ability to attract things to me. I have the ability to make decisions, and that is it. So what the hell is that? What is it? Consciousness. Well, call it a soul, call it consciousness, call it godlike, divine, whatever it is. A theologian would say always was, always will be, something that can never be destroyed. So when my body's gone, I have a consciousness, a free will that can make decisions. So where does that go?
I suppose that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
It is the $1 million question, but the fact is that science says that is the truth. So we don't know where it goes, but science agrees that always was and always will be, yeah? And that's what people who are into religion say is God. So that means, therefore, there's something in me that's bigger than the table. Like, something built a car, it was us. Well, if I built a car, that means I'm how many more times intelligent than the car. So whatever built us, who knows? And this is a thing, like, I don't know these things. There's lots of scientific theories, and I've spent lots of time on it, but we don't know. But I just do know. What I do know is there's something in me that means that I can make a decision that a table can't, because it hasn't got a consciousness. It's not alive. So that's basically what I say about spirituality. We know factually, evidentially, through the evidence shows through science that we have a soul, whether you call it a soul or a consciousness. And that's it. And so there's got to be something, so I can apply that because I'm scientific. And that's what stopped me, the challenges I had through, oh my God, spirituality, it's all for airy fairy hippies, and I don't wear a skirt, so I love my business, so I can't be like those people. But actually, now I realise I apply the science of spirituality to my business, and oh my God, did I start to thrive, And that's what I wanted people to know. You get this stuff, you do well in all. And what is your version of success? If you want to be successful, there's not a part of anything in life that I want to not know about if it's going to help me better myself. And I think that's the thing that you can say, well, how's it going to hurt to know a little bit more about it? If it's going to help me, then I'm open to it.
Yeah, sorry for the pause there. I just complete mindfuck going on. So why do you think that some people are naturally pushing back against spirituality?
It's fear, I mean, we're driven to, this is a massive topic that I'm very, very passionate about, but, there's a lot of control in our society, and it drives the economy, and there's a big subject of who rules the world. I mean, this is a very in-depth question that I never talk about, but, at the end of the day, there's lots of fear, and media drives fear because fear drives, as we know, we talked about in the beginning, sales, okay? So there's a lot of fear in our society, and things we don't know. Now we know that we've talked about our ego is designed to keep us safe, so therefore it doesn't want us to come out of our comfort zone. But there are some incredible things if you can push through your fear. And people talk about, oh, I'm going to go and do a sky jump to get through my fear. Well, actually, if there's something that you are really repelled to, that is the thing you need to go towards, because that will be your biggest great breakthrough. And that is what I do with my clients. If you're really scared of something, you don't go and jump out of a plane. If you're an adrenaline junkie and you want to do that, that's cool. But you can do that. But I promise you there's plenty of fears in your own life day to day that you can break through. And every time you get used to a fear, and get used to that discipline, you can apply that to your business. You can apply that to the success in your relationships with your children. So, it just builds up this discipline of pushing through fear and it becoming a habit. And so for me, pushing through the fears in spirituality, to me, I'm a high achiever, right? I love anything I'm scared of, so it drives me. And that's what I would say. If you're repelled to it, like I did with the church thing. I just went to spend some time in church. I literally just spent some time in church, and actually the energy in there, it felt nice. So I trusted my heart. What it felt like in my heart was, I do quite like this. I'm not going to take on all of the beliefs, but I can be there and be with a friend who's very, very into the church, and I can understand her. And if I can understand people, that is what will make me successful. So it's a win-win through all ways.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to ask you what the benefit to that was, but you came round to it. It's making you more able to connect with people, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to help the world? We're all coaches. We're all wanting to help people. So I need to understand someone's model of the world. Why does a person do something? Why does a person go blow up a country, want to, go through and do something? Or whereas another person like Mother Teresa, she wants to go and give. Actually, they got the same drivers. It's love and connection, but their models of the world and how they get that are different. They're actually coming from the same place. And the more that you can understand people, the more that you can influence, the more you can help the world be a better place. And that's where I come from. I am simply here to serve, and if you can come from that place and discipline yourself to come from that place, you will be successful,
Okay. Yeah. A bit of a left turn here, but sorry, let me phrase this properly. Do you think it's possible to be in control of your thoughts, or do you reckon it's a matter of observing the ones that are beneficial to you?
Both. I believe you can control, and it's the same as going to the gym. I'm going to choose to be either happy or I'm going to choose to be sad. But if I'm a person who finds a home in sadness, what I mean by that is, we've talked about the needs, we've talked about the beliefs, the model of the world, your map and stuff like that. There's this big combination of what makes a person psychologically. If I can find my way home, I feel safe. So a person who will find positive, things with everything will find a way to get back to that. So, for example, if Andy Robbins says this in a great way. He was 9/11 and he was in a room with so many different nationalities, and these people were, the woman who got really, really angry, the most angry, was like, oh my God, I'll go and see what's going on there. That woman didn't have anybody in the towers, didn't live in New York. She was the most angry. She was like, we need to do something about that. That woman was a person who always finds her home in anger, so she got angry. But there was other people who had people die at 9/11 in the tower, and they are sad, they're crying because they will find a way to get back to sadness. Now, there's people in there who believe that this was it's a sign that the Bible is saying, oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world, and they're in fear, so they find a way to get back to fear. And then there's other people who believe that this is a sign from Allah or whatever, and it's America's going down, and they're celebrating. So what I'm saying is, whatever you are, same as there's a nurse, right, and she should have been there, so she's feeling guilty. Everybody finds a way to get back to their home. And so in terms of being able to discipline yourself, if you can, going to the gym and getting your six-pack, if you can work every day manually, you have to work to change your thoughts back, but also to look at these different things, work with a coach, someone like you, someone like me, to help you understand what are your models, what are your beliefs, and then change them and challenge them. You can discipline your mind to get your home back to a great place. And, that is what, at the end of the day, life is not perfect, but you can see the beauty in the world. I can look out now. When I was younger and I went through my depression, my home was depression, and I've had to work my arse off. And now I can look out and I look at the clouds and I smile. Well, that's an incredible place to be. So yeah. That's what I call success for me.
Okay, so you brought up a couple of points there. One of them that I'd like to kind of explore a bit about is, sorry, that was the worst phrasing of a question ever.
No, I get it.
Is what would you say the biggest switches were, or the biggest things you did to overcome depression?
A lot of science. This is what I loved biology. I was very good at science at school, and I did a lot of research. To be honest, I wish that I'd written a paper on it, because the things that I did and I helped in my practice went global, and people use it all the time now. I was using, at the time there was only EPA, but understanding the oils, understanding what your brain is made up of, and it's still a muscle. So what's a muscle made up of? So what do I need? and what am I deficient in? So I really looked at the nutrition. That was really key. That's how I started, if I'm honest. Because there's a cycle. So you talk about mental. Okay, so people think you've got your mental, you've got your physical, and you've got your chemical. If you go to a chiropractor, I know of an extremely good chiropractor I work with the footballs with, and we talk about this. So if I am to get myself into a bend over, and Anthony Robbins calls this a triad, but he doesn't talk about the chemicals. But if I bend over, I will get myself into a state, a triad that is how I've felt every time I bend over. But if I sit straight, I'm me and my best self. But what people don't understand from that they need to understand really, and this really helps and helped me, was that I will kick off a chemical reaction by the way I hold my body. Did you know that?
I did, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah. So basically, I'm pumping chemicals every single day. Everything I need is within my body. And if I want to get happy, I need to pump serotonin. But if I'm in a bad mindset, I sit differently, then I think differently. My focus is different. So there's no beginning, there's no end. You can start in any one place. But what I realized was, I needed to put stuff in because physically my body I was deficient in some things, vitamin D and the oils that help, because my body literally it's like a muscle inside my brain, that the things it needs is it still needs to be working like a muscle does in my arm. So I use the nutrition to do that. That was one of the biggest breakthroughs I learned, how nutrition massively changes. But the other thing is then understanding that I'm pumping these chemicals. And if I don't get rid of these chemicals, because ultimately, if I am stressed, I have got what's called adrenaline. And adrenaline creates, you've got cortisol, and that stops everything that's good, everything that you need to make yourself get well from depression. It cuts it. Because if I'm in like a jungle or whatever, because years ago our bodies haven't changed since we were cavemen, so basically we still kick off a fear, becomes a perceived fear, which makes me create those chemicals. So if I'm fearful of something, depression, that is kicking off the same saber-toothed tigers come and you got to run, so I've got to pump all of the blood to my arms and my legs. Therefore I need to cut off the production of anything that would be repairing my immune system, repairing my happy thoughts, because what I need to do is I need to be able to run. And so when you're depressed, you are literally kicking out those chemicals constantly. So what I learned was basically I need to find a way to get rid of the adrenaline, and it was through exercise. That was a massive thing for me. And then obviously the mindset was, when you're depressed, the last thing you want to do is anything fun. And getting off the sofa is like the hardest thing ever when you've got no driver. But if you can find a huge pain, you can link to a pain, or you can change your model of the world and find a reason to get better. That isn't always easy when you're in that space, but you get to a point where you decide you just can't take it anymore. But basically, if you can find a way to get mindset, you've got to. I think the best thing to understand is I'm going to have bad days. The good days will get better, but I will have bad days. And when I have a bad day, it doesn't mean I'm going all the way back. Because when you're depressed and you hit another day, it's not the fear of, it's not being depressed that's the worst thing. It's actually the fear of depression. It's having a good day and the fear that tomorrow you might not have that again. And that's the killer. That is what kills people. And so what I do is I help people remove that fear, and I explain to them, and I get them to draw it on a piece of paper, like black and white, and it'll all be black, and then you're going to have tiny, tiny little slithers of white. But that slither of white will go black again, but just letting them know that will be an end, and the slithers of white will get bigger and bigger, and when you have a down day, you haven't gone all the way back because you had a space of white, which was a breather without the pain. That will increase. And that for me was the massive thing that I learned that really helped me with depression.
That's really interesting, because a lot of people will say it's a choice to be depressed or not to be depressed, and I suppose in a way it is, but it's such a hard thing to do, to make that decision that actually now's the time that I'm going to change.
That annoys me,
Yeah.
It just fucks me off, because really, like, does a depressed person that choose to be depressed, does a homeless person to choose to be a homeless person, does a drug addict to choose to be a drug addict? Yeah, they do and they don't. But what we're saying is, like, if they don't have the tools to know how to change, or knowing this stuff about the biggest drivers, yeah, we can all say, oh, well, you can be judgmental, but what are they getting out of that? What is, what pain have they been through? Because if someone's a drug addict, how do we know what situation they got away from that this is actually better? If I'm going through a state in my life where I don't want to be in my body and I need to lift out, that's survival. That person's gone into survival mode, and I can look at that person now through all my experience of coaching and be like, I respect you, and you need some tools, and you don't know those tools yet. I know these tools and I can help you. And I think that is what it's about. It's about looking at a person and what's happened and never judging.
Okay. So if there was anyone listening to this who was in a situation where they weren't in the best mindset, where would you get them to start?
Where would I get them to start?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty shocking on the phone if someone's depressed. I've never ever had to commit anybody. I was close to committing one person who was, because with me, I will work with a certain level of people, but sometimes I've never had to take somebody and commit them.
Of course.
But as a coach, there is a line between coaching and obviously an ethical point of view where sometimes you have to hand somebody over and they need to try like 24/7 care. And I would say the best thing is to get with somebody. Like, I will shock somebody out of it. I'll do whatever I have to do. I will listen for their drivers. I will listen for their pain. So I guess the first thing I would say is get help. Go to the doctor isn't always the best thing, but like, even if you can do something to shift your pain, but talk to someone is the best thing. Talk to someone you trust, and if you can, get a fucking good coach, because I've been through through myself the system, CBT, NLP. I've tried them all, and that's why I feel experienced that I can talk about this stuff. But coaching to me is, this is where I am and this is where I want to be, and how do I bridge the gap? I don't want to go and talk about the reason I'm depressed, and a lot of therapies do believe that's the right way and you need to sit in the pain. Honestly, I just need to save someone's life. I do not need to put that person in any more pain. I need to save their life right now. So I am not going to put that person into any more pain until they're in a safe enough environment in themselves to be able to cope with moving forward and addressing it. So the first thing I think is to talk to someone you trust and get a coach, someone who really understands what is going to drive you, what is going to be your payoff for staying depressed, and how the hell do I get that and change that in your mind? So that is my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's very similar to what Tony Robbins suggests in his books as well. So.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
If I'm doing as good as the daddy of all self-development, then I'm happy.
Exactly. Do you mind if we go on to some? Well, there'll be quick-fire questions from me, but they don't necessarily have to be quick-fire answers.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. So, first one, what does it mean to you to be an alpha?
Alpha means dominance, but I think we touched on this on the phone. That's the first initial thing that comes. And then when I say, well, what is alpha? And I look into the meaning of it, we talked about a beautiful thing that I've seen lately, and it says, if a man is a king, he treats his woman like a queen. And if, in order for a queen to be a queen, she needs to treat her man like a king. And I think there's so much mixed up stuff right now. I'm very into looking at the roles within society. Women have gone very alpha, the power to the women. And I just feel that men are like, well, I used to buy you. So say, for instance, I used to, a man would go out in the caveman. He would go and he would bring and he would provide. And then a woman would stay at home and look after, manage the house and the children, the cave, whatever it would be. And we can talk about all these drivers and these things, but there are natural human instincts in us that have never, ever gone. And for me, alpha is about getting back to that human instinct, about knowing who you are, being the king for your queen, and being the best version of yourself. And I think if you can be alpha and not be dictatorial, not try and control your woman, your friends, your business, but learn to accept and let go and forgive, that to me is what alpha is. Because when we looked at someone like Hitler, his reign was dictatorial. And alpha, sometimes people think that means dominance, but actually a great alpha, if you look at it, an alpha and omega, even the daft, like I say the daft, but they're brilliant. The stories behind Disney's are amazing. And a great alpha is actually a leader. And a leader listens, and a leader inspires, and a leader is the master of his own journey so that he inspires other people and he makes people want to follow him. So he listens and he is always looking for the best in other people. And to me, that's what alpha's really about.
That's a perfect answer.
Thank you.
What do your friends and clients consider you world class at?
My job.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Yeah.
I years ago, even when I started coaching and I was getting phenomenal results for people, there is that English, what I call is a global belief, right? That, well, I'm English, so I believe that I shouldn't say great things about me, but I'm not saying things that aren't true. I get incredible results for people. And so I think for me, what I've learned is people used to say it, but I felt I couldn't say it, or I'd be egotistical or up my own arse if I said that I'm phenomenal, but it's just a fact. Like, I get phenomenal results for people and I'm really proud of that, but it's not me. I'm part of a team, I'm linked in, and I'm serving from the best place that I know how, and that is what makes me good. So what am I world class at? There's nobody that I would say is a better coach than me. I would say Anthony Robbins is phenomenal and he could do things, and he's got more experience, but I would say I'm the best in the world, simple as that. And I will do whatever it takes to help my clients get the results, and that actually took a lot for me to be able to say. But getting 100% success rate, or even 98% success rate, is more than you would get if I was doing the NHS and I was using some of the therapies that I have strong opinions on now. So I'm very, very proud of that.
Can you just quickly go into those the therapies that you have strong opinions on? I think it'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so there's psychology, and I used to think for a while, quite a few years, I was going to study psychology, and I looked at all the different options, and I was like, well, who's the person who says whether I can be a psychologist or not? Well, it's the government. The government create these guidelines, and the government decide now who's the person in the government and what's their experience and where did they come from. Well, they've gone to a school, they've followed the normal guidelines, and they've not really understood anything outside of that. So do I really want that? Now, does that mean I understand psychology? Yes, I do. Do I respect psychologists? Absolutely, 100%. But what I know is there's a tool. I pick my tool, and then I learn to be good at that. So with experience and time, and you can learn to be the best at what you do. So psychologists, there's good psychologists, there's not good psychologists. Like, there's a good accountant and a not good accountant. I wouldn't label any one profession and say that they're all rubbish. I would say that there's every single place of these different therapies has good and not so good. But I think it's about the person. You choose your tool and you decide to keep growing. You decide to keep understanding, and you decide to keep looking for the best practice. So that would be what I would comment on that.
Of course, that makes perfect sense. There's good people and there's bad people at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I don't really promote the therapies, and I met somebody who does play therapy on the plane on holiday. She's fantastic, and she's talking about going and looking at things, but looking in the past, and you can't ever get past it. But until you've looked in the past, well, I know that Anthony Robbins would completely disagree with that. But I do believe there's a time and a place to visit, and we're like onions and we need to release. But you need to be in a good space to be able to handle that, so that you can still work day to day, because we've got to go to work. We've got to be able to. I know that there's things like EFT, emotional freedom technique, where I can literally click my fingers and drop something that was stuck in my body, and I'm all about getting the fastest results. So if I can do something like EFT that helped me fly, whereas I was, had a high need for certainty, so therefore there was a control. So I recognised I wasn't on control on a plane. So basically, if I do a therapy, I don't want to talk about the fact that I've had a horrible flight and I nearly died in a crash. And do you know what? It's been going on for years. Get me the result. That's all I care about. So I like the therapies that are really, really results driven, because at the end of the day, that's what I get paid for, results.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What 3 things do you do every day for your health?
Well, Liam and I, and he's very good. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The 3 things that I do for my, the 3 things that I do are basically eat well, and I will look out and find something to be grateful for. I love living by the fields, or I'll look at my son, or look at Liam and think how lucky I am, and realise that if I've got 2 pence in my purse, then I'm more abundant than most of the people in the world. So gratitude, and obviously just move in some way, like do some kind of exercise. But yeah, just gratitude for my mind.
It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 things.
So basically Liam would have a smoothie, but I'd always eat something good for breakfast. It's just nutrition, respecting my body. That's what I do.
Okay, perfect. What's the most important book you've ever read?
Oh, that's so easy.
Yeah.
That's Richard Branson's book. Yeah.
Which one?
The first one, his autobiography.
Yeah.
Absolutely just phenomenal man, and just learn about his childhood and how he started. It's the book that I read so fast. I think I read it in 2 days.
Yeah, you just fly through it, don't you? I listened to the audiobook and I almost didn't stop listening. It's that good.
Yeah, it was addictive, and he's incredible. He's absolutely incredible. He's a man who's learned what I call the voices that we talked about. That he has disciplined himself to be able to follow his gut. Okay, so that is how he's successful. I call it the Simon Cowell effect, because you see, if you hear Simon Cowell talk on TV, this is what he does. He goes, I had a feeling about it and I just went with it. Women who can learn to be in tune with that lighthouse I was talking about, that is what makes you successful. So when I say, if you think spirituality is airy-fairy, you're doing it wrong, it's because you don't get it. Because if you did, and you want to be successful, you'd be listening to the lighthouse. You'd be doing the spirituality, because when you clear your mind, you can listen to your gut. That is what makes very successful people that way. Also, the drivers, the pain, the pleasure, the vision, and all that stuff. But ultimately, those gut feelings never serve you wrong. And, if you ask Simon Cowell, he'll say the only times he's made a mistake in business was times he didn't follow that. So I think that, just discipline and that's just so important.
Okay. I think the next question is going to be very closely related to what you just said, but if you had one message that you could tell the world, what would it be?
My passion is basically showing successful people how to be more successful. That's what I do, and I would say it is just to think, like, what do you really want? Like, if you're in a good space, what do you really want? If you really wanted the new car, the new house, whatever, if you're on your deathbed, is that really what you care about? So set your goals, have those nice things, but ultimately, what is it that you really care about? And it's your family, and spend great time with them, and learn first to serve yourself. Like, it's okay to be selfish, but there is a time when you need to compromise with, if on a scale of 1 to 10, my partner's need is 10 and mine's only 7, well, I can do that thing that I wanted to do another time. I'll think out the box and do it in another way. But ultimately, I need to serve myself first and be selfish. So if I was single, how would I act? If I act that way now, and as long as it's not going to purposely upset my other half or be disrespectful, but I would never disrespect myself in that way anyway. So as long as it stays well with my values, and I need to do and need to be to make a healthy relationship, it needs to be 2 independent people who come together and flow together, and still allow that person to be that person. So that's who you were when you first started off. So stay that person and be true to yourself. And that guiding voice, that inner self, that higher self, that lighthouse, absolutely every day get in touch with that, and then take massive action on that, and you'll get everything you want.
Okay, so I'm sure there'll be so many people who want to find out more about what you do. So where can people find out more about you?
I'm on Facebook as Samantha Chapman, and there is also a website which is going to be launching just tomorrow, and it's samanthachapman.co.uk. But also I am I'm a performance coach, so I am on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, definitely visit samanthachapman.co.uk or drop me a line on Facebook and connect with me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sam. It's been a great show, especially the bit that no one got to hear, because that completely changed my life. So thank you.
You're welcome, and it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and thank you for helping me spread my message, because like I said, if you're in that peaceful place in yourself and you can work from that space and get yourself happy now rather than wait until you're successful, then success will naturally follow.
Perfect. Cool.
What is success? So it's what is success is being happy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll end it there. Thank you. Cheers.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Tom.
Cool. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Alpha Movement Podcast. 2 things to remind you of. Firstly, on Thursday, 3rd March, 8 o'clock in the PM, we have Hacking Your Health in Limited Time, getting disgustingly strong, fit, healthy and confident with the minimum time invested. This is my workshop on how to get the most out of your training and nutrition if you have a very small amount of time to invest. Really recommend it. And the second thing is I've still got a 21-day free plan out there where we're going to put the foundations into your health by transforming your fitness and your health, your nutrition, and most of all your mindset. So if you're interested in either of those, I'll put links in the show notes, but you can head to alphamovement.co to find out more. If you want to revolutionize your body, mindset and health, head over to facebook.com/alphamovementofficial or alphamovement.co, where you will get exclusive content and be kept in the loop about upcoming guests. I'm always looking for people who have inspiring stories about fitness, mindset and what it takes to be alpha. If that sounds like you or someone you know, you can send your story to tom@alphamovement.co. This is a movement redefining what it means to be alpha through revolution of mindset and mastery of the physical body.